Hello students, let's understand the concept of goods sold. I mean the topic is journal entries for goods sold. Remember one thing students, when goods are sold by the businessman into the market, the goods sold are recorded in one account, that is a sales account. Understand this. These are recorded in sales account. It means a separately goods account is not maintained. Rather, sale of goods is recorded through sales account. And sales is a main source of revenue of the business. Remember this. Sales, the main source of revenue, main source of income of the business. Because sales results into revenue and that results into income and profit to the business. You understand that well. So sales being the revenue of the business, since it is the revenue of the business, it is a nominal account. See, it is a nominal account. And what is the rule of the nominal account? Debit all expenses and losses and credit all income and gains. Credit all income and gains. It means sales being revenue and a part of nominal account, it will be credited. So you always keep in mind students, whenever goods are sold into the market, sales account will be credited regardless of the fact whether the goods are sold for cash or credit. Sales account is naturally credited. Repeat, goods are sold either for cash or non credit, it doesn't matter, sales account will be credited always, because it is a main source of revenue, it is a main source of income to the business. That's why it is a nominal account. And as per the rule of the nominal account, all revenues, incomes are credited whenever these take place into the business. Now, there are three instructions you need to keep in mind before recording the sales of goods transaction into the books of accounts. And these are, I would explain one by one through these transactions also. If the transaction of goods sold is simply given without a name or without mentioning whether it is a cash or a credit transaction, then what to do? See the first transaction. Sold goods for rupees 60,000. Name of the customer is missing and nature of transaction is also missing, whether on credit or for cash. So it will be considered as a cash sale. It is a cash transaction students. It will be considered as cash sales. See that second transaction and the second instruction as well. Sold goods to Sumit for 55,000. See here name of the customer Sumit is mentioned, but it's not mentioned whether it is for on credit or for cash. If the name of the customer is given, then it is a credit transaction, because for cash it is not mentioned, so it will be a credit sale. Remember, it is credit sales. See the third transaction. I have discussed two transactions and two instructions as well, and the third one is sold goods to Sumit for rupees 50,000 for cash. Whenever goods are sold for cash, and it is clearly mentioned here, in this case name of the customer is completely ignored, and that doesn't become the part of journal entries. So now one by one, let's pass journal entries for these three transactions. The first transaction is sold goods for rupees 60,000. There are two accounts involved in this. One is cash account. Students, cash is coming in. Cash is a real account. Whenever cash comes in, you know that that is always debited, because it is a real account, debit what comes in. So cash account debit 60,000. And at the beginning of the lecture I told you sales account is always credited. Keep this in mind. Why? That is revenue, main source of income, that is a nominal account, that's why it will be credited. So cash account debit to sales account 60,000. So this is the first transaction and the first journal entry. See this students. Now the second one, sold goods to Sumit for rupees 55,000. This is a credit transaction, but sales account is credited irrespective of the fact whether it is a cash sale or a credit sale, because that is generating income for the business. But this is a credit transaction and Sumit is a customer to whom we sold goods on credit. So Sumit is a personal account, remember. Debit the receiver. What is the rule of personal account? Debit the receiver, credit the giver. And Sumit is receiving goods for rupees 55,000, and accordingly, Sumit's account will be debited. And one more method is there. Sumit is our debtor also. Sumit is our debtor also. Debtor means what? Debtor, the person to whom goods are sold on credit, and later on we will recover that amount from him. And for the time being, the amount is recovered, he will remain our debtor, and debtor means asset. And whenever asset increases, these are debited. So journal entries in the second case will be Sumit debit, Sumit debit 55,000 to sales, and you know sales being main source of revenue, and a nominal account will be credited. Now come to the third transaction, dear students. Sold goods to Sumit for rupees 50,000 for cash. Since cash is coming into the business, whenever goods are sold for cash, we do not consider the name of the customer. It means that has no importance. To whomsoever we sell the goods, this doesn't matter. What matter is cash is coming in. We sold goods, cash is coming in, and sales account will be credited. So goods are going account, that's why sales is credited. So journal entries in this case, cash is coming in, cash account debit. It will be just like the first one, cash account debit, cash account debit, that is 50,000. Since cash is real account, debit what comes in to sales account. Whenever goods are sold, sales account is obviously credited since it is a main source of revenue, and it's a nominal account. Now in the next phase of this lecture, let's discuss the treatment of expenses incurred on goods sold. So students, see the two transactions in which expenses are also involved. The first transaction is sold goods for rupees 60,000 and paid rupees 3,000 as carriage. It means carriage is our expenses. It's not the expense made by the customer. So in this case, see, there will be two transactions. You need to understand, students, and it means you need to read it in two parts. First part up to this point, sold goods for rupees 60,000. So first journal entries will be for this. It means there will be two entries of this transaction. The first one, cash account debit, cash is coming in, cash account debit 60,000, that is a real account, debit what comes in to sales account 60,000. Journal entry for the first part of this transaction up to this point. And there will be one more journal entries for the expenses incurred. Why that? Try to understand. The first part of the transaction reveals there is an income of rupees, there is a revenue of rupees 60,000. For revenue, there will be a separate entry, and for expenses incurred by us, there will be a separate entry because it is an expense. The journal entries for expenses incurred, it means this much. This is a second transaction. Entry will be carries account debit, carries. This is our expense, nominal account, debit all expenses and losses. Carries account debit amounting to rupees 3,000 to cash account. Cash is a real account, credit what goes out. See this, students, you need to understand. In one transactions, there will be two entries because first part of the transaction reveals that there is a revenue of 60,000 entry for that, and second part of the transaction what indicates there is an expense of rupees 3,000, so carries account debit to cash account. Now come to the second transaction. there is a variation which you need to understand for journal entries purpose. See the transaction: sold goods to Sumit for rupees 50,000. This is a credit transaction, and paid rupees 4,000 paid by us as carriage to be recovered from Sumit. It means carriage paid by us, but later on that amount will be recovered from Sumit. So how many accounts are involved here? See, one is a goods. Goods means sales account, sales account. Second, Sumit, to whom we sold the goods for goods sold plus expenses to be recovered from him. And third account involved is cash, because there is an there is a cash outflow of rupees 4,000. No doubt this amount will be recovered from Sumit later on, but presently we paid this amount, so cash outflow. So there are three accounts involved. What will be the journal entry? See students, you have to do this entry in parts. You need to understand that. See, sales account is credited. Sumit became our debtor. He became our debtor for two things. First, for goods sold. Second, for expenses which we made on his behalf. And later on, that amount will be recovered from him. So he will be debited. And third is the cash. Cash is going out. See, this entry is a little bit complicated. Try to understand that. That will be easy in that case. See the journal entry: Sumit debit. Sumit is our debtor, debit the receiver, and debtor is always debited, you know. Sumit debit for how much? For the amount of goods sold. I write it this in bracket 50,000 plus for expenses which we made on his behalf, and later on this amount will be recovered from him. So Sumit debit 54,000 to sales account. Our revenue amounting to rupees, sorry, this is 54,000. I correct this. To sales account, sales amounting to rupees 50,000, and cash is going out. Why? Because we made the payment of carries on behalf of Sumit to cash account amounting to rupees 4,000. See the journal entry. This part is very important. If you are able to understand this, it means accounting is easy for you. See, understand this in part. Sales account will be credited for the goods sold amount 50,000. 4,000 is cash going out, which we payment of which we made on behalf of Sumit. So Sumit's account will be debited. So Sumit debit for goods sold plus expenses which we paid on his behalf to sales account to cash account. So students, journal entries are very easy to do if firstly you understand the rules of debit and credit as per the modern approach as well as the traditional approach. You visit my channel again and watch the videos regarding the rules of debit and credit, then you will be able to easily understand this. So I think the concept is clear. You are able to understand the transactions of goods sold along with the expenses incurred thereon. Subscribe the channel if not yet subscribed. Share the video with your friends and classmates. And for videos in Hindi, important thing, for videos in Hindi, visit my another channel, that is Commerce with Difference. Stay connected, improve your knowledge.